Hello, everyone. Welcome to another installment of Insights with C5 Insight. My name is Emily, and I'm joined by my colleagues Paige and Malcolm today. And we are going to be talking a little bit about when to walk away. And you may be wondering, what do you mean? Walk away from what? And in this context, what we want to talk about is when to walk away from work that you might be configuring, or when you're in the middle, heads down in some development and you're stuck. At what point do you decide to just pull the plug for, the day, whatever it might be, and decide to walk away? So Paige or Malcolm, what have you guys experienced, or what have either of you experienced, and when have you decided to walk away?
I can give direct experience because what gave rise to this whole topic this week, right? Working on a flow, Power Automate flow, and you get all of it built out, and there's multiple layers to it, and then one little thing stops working or doesn't work, and you start banging your head around. And I equated it to being at a casino, at a slot machine, and you're like, what if I hit the button one more time and it works? Like, what if I make that one little tweak, or I play all lines one more time and I win the jackpot? Like, I can't walk away right now. And I feel like that's what it feels like when you're in the midst and you're like, I feel like I'm so close,
Totally.
but it's not working. And then you get that mix of like hope, but also utter frustration and defeat because you're like, but it's not working. So I decided after, I think I had been going at that portion, I'd been stuck for probably the better part of a half an hour. And I was like, okay, it's almost the end of the day. I know I'm getting tired. I think I should just pack it in. But it's hard. It's
Oh my
hard to be like,
gosh.
okay, I'm just gonna leave it and I'll come back to it tomorrow. And yeah, so I don't know what the recipe is for what the right time is, but I think it's important for all of us to recognize that it's okay to be like, I'm just gonna stop and walk away, go for a walk,
Yeah.
go overnight, like pack it in for the day or whatever. So Paige, I don't know if you have different thoughts, but
Well, I was just going to say you actually didn't say if it worked. If you walked away and
I
it
was
worked.
going to get to that. I was going to get to that, but I didn't want to keep talking because
I was on edge. I was on edge,
like,
man.
Did you
Everybody
figure
can
it
just
out?
wait. I'll fill you in a minute.
Dang it, man. Difficult. Yes, I have absolutely been in the same situation and agreed especially when you make incremental progress, oh, I'm getting a new error message. Yay.
Excited for that. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, who knew that you would be excited about getting a different error message? But yeah, so it is so difficult to know when to walk away, because I think it's our nature to want to solve the thing, right?
100%.
I think that's one of the things that makes us good at what we do. We can solve things. We have different ways that we figure things out. So when we get defeated by something, we really feel it in our bones, and we're like, God, why am I here? Every kind of thing.
And you always remember that satisfaction of figuring it out, or when you do, like in the past, like when you figure out something. And so I personally find it very challenging to walk away.
Absolutely.
Because I just remember, oh my gosh, remember how great it was last week when I figured out this really tricky flow and I resolved it. Let's try to do it again. So I find it so challenging to stop without chatting with someone about it or whatever. But oh my gosh, it's a struggle for me for sure.
And I find when I'm working on something like that, I also lose track of time.
Yes,
absolutely.
So like I'll be like, okay, let me work on this 5 more minutes, and then I look up and I'm like, oh my, it's been an hour.
Exactly. Yeah, when you mention like incremental change, it just comes so quickly. It's like, oh, I spent 15 minutes. Great, let me do this one other tweak. It just builds on itself, and then, oh my gosh, has it been all afternoon that I've been working on this?
Yeah.
Well, so to end the suspense, so I did walk away. I did call a friend, which I think we should talk about in a sec too. And we talked through some options, and I was like, okay, good thoughts, but at that point, even the good thoughts that I was hearing were like, it was a little bit of the Charlie Brown effect, the teacher effect, right? Like, it was, I could hear the words, but they didn't mean anything, and I need to process that and think about it, and I'm clearly not in the right headspace to do it because I'm a mix of frustrated and trying to figure it out and mad that I can't, and not worried about the project, but like, oh, what if I can't figure it out? And so I ended up walking away, and I came back the next morning, and I was like, all right, couple sips of coffee, let's tackle this again. Literally sat back in my chair and went, oh, and I was
Mhm.
like, tweak, 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 run, flow worked fine. And I was like,
Mhm.
why couldn't I see that yesterday? But that tunnel vision happens, right? And
Yeah.
you get stuck in it. And we've all been in a scenario where you're looking at something so long that you don't see it anymore. You see the object, you don't see the details, which
Mhm.
I think is hard. So there's two other things I think we should talk about. Number
Yeah.
one, the reality that is hard, I think, for a lot of people to talk about, but imposter syndrome creeps in a
Oh,
big way, right?
huge.
That's such
I
a
get
good
it massively, right? So then I'm like, you referenced it a little bit, Paige, like, why am I here? Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe they pay me to do this when I can't even figure out this
Right.
problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you solve it and you're like, oh, right, that's why they pay me, because I could find the solution and I figured it
Yeah.
out. But I think that's an important thing for people to acknowledge, because I've yet to meet somebody, well, maybe very few people I've met who say, "Yeah, I never have imposter syndrome. I feel on top of my game all the time," and I'm not sure that I believe them when they
Yeah.
say that.
That's
Agreed.
fair.
Right?
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing was you referenced call a friend. I think is an important thing, right? Sometimes you get in that tunnel vision, and it's best to just pick up the phone or send a Teams ping and be like, "Guys, somebody, somebody, please rescue me from this
Yeah,
bad place I'm in."
yeah, and it's like almost a different way of thinking of walking away. So, thinking of, okay, literally stepping away from your desk, going for an actual walk, maybe like doing some tidying up around the house. Or it could be this concept of just walking away from your own like bubble, perhaps, where
Yeah.
you do have this tunnel vision, calling someone, just saying out loud what you're trying to do, which in itself may just spur some ideas as you're talking about it to someone else that isn't just yourself focusing.
Yeah.
That's another idea
Yeah.
on that
And
front.
I gave an example earlier about one of our colleagues, Aaron. He had an issue and he was really struggling with, and I was like, I don't know what you're working on. Why don't we talk through it? You can tell me about it. He pulled up whatever the thing was, and I was like, I have no idea. I see its flow. I mean, I know it. I see its flow. I know what that is, but all the other things you're doing, I have no idea. I said, but talk to me about it. Explain it to me. Explain to me what you're doing. And invariably, within probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, he realized something that he hadn't done or he needed to try. And after that, it worked. He messaged me later and said it worked. So I think it's important for people to think, I think sometimes when we're stuck, we're like, okay, only Emily and Malcolm can help me, but that's not necessarily the case. We could just talking through it with anybody could sometimes help us figure out what the issue is.
Yeah. What do they say? There's no better way to learn something than to try and teach somebody else
Oh,
that thing, right?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something along those lines. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's so true, because it puts you in that space where you gotta try and understand it and make sure you understand it. And I think we're really good at our organization at allowing ourselves to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows everything about all these platforms. There's too much. Nobody's ever gonna. And if they tell you they do, I would challenge them hard on that, because there's too many moving parts in all these things,
Yeah.
and it's okay to not know all the answers. And sometimes you just got to talk it out and do a lunch and learn on something you're not familiar with, so that you have to do the research and learn
Right.
it. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Force you to do the research, force you
That's
to
right.
prepare, and then
That's
also
right.
get good questions from people to help you all learn. So yeah, good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. How many
so,
times have
so
I
I think
said, that's a great question. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, let me get back to you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, I don't know that we've talked about a time limit. I think it's different in
Yeah.
every situation, but the point is to have some recognition somewhere along the line of just walk away. And it's funny because I have three little stickies that sit on top of my laptop. One says stay focused, because that's always a challenge for me.
Yes.
Right? Is stay focused on what you're doing. The other one says paint done. And that's trying to remind, it's actually a Brene Brown thing, that it's when we're trying to get somewhere, it's sometimes easier to think about where you're trying to go and what it's going to look like when you're there, so that you can build your work back plan to execute against that, right? Okay, well, I want this flow to do this thing. In order to get it to do that, here's what I have to do to get it to do those things. I have to get all these records. I have to variable this and do all that, whatever the things are. And so that's the other one. The other one is next action, because it's one I struggle with all the time, and I try to remind myself, and you guys hear me say it all the time. Great, what's the next action on this? And it's 100% because I read my little sticky beside my camera that literally says in bold, next action. Because to move the needle on anything, we have to know what are we going to do next? What's the next thing we have to do? I think I need to add one on here that says, just walk away, man. or just take a break, right? Because you have to remind yourself of that, and it's so easy to not get in that headspace and just tunnel vision and try and solve it, and then you're up a creek, one might say.
Yeah.
And I think us talking about it, I know for me, I was just sitting here thinking, it would probably be helpful for me to set it, if I do run into a challenge, set a timer for I'm having a challenge. I'm setting a timer.
Yeah.
I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to work on it for 15 more minutes, and then I'm going to go. Now, I'm lucky because I have some built-in things, 2 four-legged things in my life that I have to to take a break for. So that does help. But I think that just us talking about it will definitely help me try to do that more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because one item that I've started using more, and I kind of fluctuate with using this method, but it's the Pomodoro technique. So setting a timer for 25 minutes, and there's actually like an app that you can get. I just downloaded it off the Microsoft Store, and it's literally a tomato. And so you have this tomato timer on your screen at all times, work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. And you do that, I think, about 4 times, and then you take a 15-minute break. And so that, to your point, Paige, of almost having that visual cue of, okay, I am only giving myself 25 minutes. Maybe I'm putting a bit of pressure on myself, but enough to say, okay, if I don't get it, I'm seeing it count down. I'm now at, 1 minute. I need to take a break. So I know it's hard to define times for these sorts of things. And, if you're in the middle of something, maybe you can't really say, oh, after 25 minutes, you just may not have gotten far enough, but it may be worth just trying something out a bit more concrete. So you aren't just kind of going up the creek without a paddle. So
absolutely.
And now you can, I saw your face there, Paige. I assume your timer thing started to go off on your phone, but you can literally now, I think we all are probably in the vicinity of a phone that we could say, hey, device of choice, set me a 20-minute timer, right? Yeah. And you don't even need to do anything. You just have to say the words, and then it'll tell you when it's over, and then away you go. So I love that tip. That's a great call. So
yeah,
cool.
Nice.
Well, go ahead. Is somebody gonna say something else?
No.
We're good.
Well, I think those are good tips. I know our hope for even talking about this one was to help other people. If you're having that realization that you're like, oh, I get in that tunnel vision, just take a break, right? Just take 5 or sleep on it and come back the next day, get it out of your head, and then come back to it, because chances are you'll probably be able to solve it, or at least move the needle a little bit further when you come back to it. So no shame in doing that at all.
Nope.
Awesome. Well, good chat, guys. I appreciate it, and we will see you all again on another episode of Insights with C5 Insight. Take care.
Bye-bye.